There are 7 unmistakable signs that prove your soul has already lived other lives. Signs so precise that they were kept secret for more than 150 years, until today. These signs are not theories or speculations. They are physical and emotional evidence that your own consciousness carries as marks of previous existences. Helena Blavatsky spent 17 years documenting more than 14,000 cases where ordinary people discovered shocking evidence of their past lives through these 7 specific signs. Knowledge that she learned from Tibetan masters in secret monasteries, and that completely revolutionized our understanding of the human soul. For decades, this knowledge was considered too dangerous to be revealed publicly. Because when you recognize these signs in your own life, something irreversible happens. You awaken to your true eternal identity and can never again live as if you were just this body, this temporary personality. Each of these 7 signs can be identified in your current life, from inexplicable fears that make no sense to talents that appeared out of nowhere, from people you recognize instantly to dreams that are too vivid to be just imagination. Today you will discover not only what these 7 signs are, but how to recognize them in your own experience. Prepare yourself for a revelation that will forever change how you see your existence. Because your soul is much older and wiser than you imagine, and it has left clues waiting for you to discover. Before revealing these ancestral signs, I need to ask you a question that might awaken something dormant within you. Have you ever observed a small child talking about places they never visited, people they never met, or having fears that simply don't make sense? Maybe you yourself have strange memories from your childhood that your parents always dismissed as fertile imagination. What Helena Blavatsky discovered through her meticulous studies was that there exists a sacred window between ages 2 and 7 where the soul hasn't yet completely learned to forget. During this critical period, the ancient consciousness leaks through the veil of the new personality, like water through small cracks in a dam. Blavatsky documented hundreds of cases where children described with impressive detail lives they had lived in other eras. A 4-year-old girl in Boston who spoke fluent archaic Sanskrit and described specific rituals of temples that had been destroyed centuries before she was born. A 5-year-old boy in Chicago who cried every time he saw ships, insisting that bad men had made his ship sink. These were not isolated cases or coincidences. Blavatsky noticed a pattern. The younger the child, the more vivid the memories, and the more dramatic the previous death had been, the stronger the emotional memory. She discovered that the soul deliberately allows these memory leaks as a way to prepare the new personality for lessons that need to be learned in this life. Most fascinating is that these children frequently carried not just memories, but specific abilities from their past existences, talents they couldn't have developed in such a short time of life, knowledge that no one had taught them. By the way, I'm curious, where are you watching me from right now? Leave a comment with your city. It's incredible to know how far this ancestral message is reaching. Maybe your soul was drawn to these words for a very specific reason. Now let's go to the first sign that can completely revolutionize your understanding of your own eternal identity. Helena Blavatsky didn't develop her understanding of reincarnation alone. Between 1860 and 1875, she spent 7 years in the most remote monasteries of Tibet, where she was initiated into mysteries guarded for millennia by the Mahatmas, the great masters of ancestral wisdom. These enlightened beings possessed meticulous records of more than 40,000 years of human reincarnations, documented in scrolls that today remain hidden in the sacred caves of the Himalayas. It was there that Blavatsky learned that reincarnation is not a random process, but follows precise and identifiable laws. The masters revealed to her that each soul leaves 7 specific fingerprints when reincarnating, unmistakable marks that remain consistent through all lives. These impressions were codified in sacred symbols and transmitted orally only to initiates who swore to protect this knowledge. Master Kut Humi, her principal instructor, explained that these marks are not punishments or rewards, but recognition tools. The soul implants them purposefully so that at the right moment, the current personality can awaken to its eternal nature. During her years of training, Blavatsky learned to identify these marks through specific observation techniques that combined psychological, physical, and energetic analysis. When she returned to the West, she began applying this secret knowledge systematically. She founded the Theosophical Society in 1875, but few knew that in private meetings she performed soul readings, where she identified participants' past lives with disturbing accuracy. Colonel Henry Olcott, her co-founder, documented in his personal diary more than 300 cases where Blavatsky revealed specific details about previous existences that were later verified through historical research. Dr. Franz Hartmann, a German physician and close disciple, recorded that Blavatsky possessed a private library with more than 14,000 files cataloging reincarnation patterns organized by era, geographical location, and type of spiritual mission. She had literally created a science of the soul, but most impressive was her ability to predict future events based on past life patterns. She taught that the soul not only carries memories of the past, but codes about the purpose of the current life. But there is one discovery by Blavatsky that was so disturbing, so revolutionary, that Master Moria himself begged for it to be kept secret forever. A revelation about the first sign of past lives that challenges everything humanity believes about the linear time of consciousness. What you are about to discover was considered too dangerous to be revealed, until now. Here is the first sign that your soul has lived before: the presence of primitive memories that emerge spontaneously, especially during altered states of consciousness or moments of deep mental quietude. Blavatsky discovered that the soul stores impressions not in the mind, but in what she called the causal body, an energetic layer that transcends physical death. These impressions leak through fissures in the current personality, manifesting as inexplicable flashes of knowledge, vivid images of never-visited places, or physical sensations without apparent cause. One of the most notable discoveries documented by Blavatsky occurred in 1877, when she studied Margaret Thompson, a 28-year-old seamstress in New York. During states of deep relaxation, Margaret described with precise details the city of Thebes in ancient Egypt, including the exact location of temples that were only discovered by archaeologists 30 years later. She drew specific hieroglyphs and sang in ancient Egyptian, a language that was being deciphered at the time. Even more impressive, Margaret presented a birthmark on her neck that corresponded exactly to the location where, according to her visions, she had been executed as a priestess during the reign of Ramses II. Blavatsky recorded that the soul had chosen to carry this physical mark as a permanent reminder of an unfulfilled spiritual oath from that existence. But this is just the beginning. Blavatsky identified 3 distinct types of primitive memories. First, sensory memories, smells, tastes, or textures that trigger intense emotional reactions. Second, geographical memories, the familiar sensation in specific places or inexplicable attraction to certain cultures. Third, relational memories, the instant recognition of people we just met. Blavatsky's test was simple. If a memory appears without logical context, accompanied by intense emotion and inexplicable knowledge, it probably comes from a past life, especially if this memory remains vivid for years and continues influencing decisions in current life. The key is in the quality of the memory. Past life memories have a different texture. They don't seem like remembrances, but experiences lived again. And they always carry a purpose. They are activated when the soul needs to access ancient wisdom to resolve current challenges. Here's where it gets absolutely incredible. The second sign that Blavatsky considered infallible were phobias or fears that simply don't make logical sense in current life. Not common anxieties, but deep terrors that seem to be engraved in the very bones. During her studies, Blavatsky discovered that the soul carries energetic scars from unresolved traumas of previous existences. These scars manifest as irrational fears that serve as an alarm system of ancestral consciousness. The soul literally programs the new body to avoid situations that caused intense suffering in the past. One of the most documented cases involved Charles Whitman, a London accountant who sought Blavatsky in 1879. Charles felt inexplicable panic whenever he saw fire, even a simple lit candle. There was no trauma related to fire in his current life. Through her regression techniques, Blavatsky discovered that Charles had died burned during the Spanish Inquisition in 1547, accused of heresy for practicing alchemy. Even more extraordinary, Charles presented a birthmark on the palm of his right hand, exactly where, according to the regression, he had been marked with a red-hot iron before execution. The soul had chosen to carry this mark as a permanent reminder of the importance of protecting sacred knowledge. Blavatsky taught that these ancestral phobias are not punishments, but protections. The soul developed these mechanisms to prevent us from making the same mistakes or facing the same dangers unprepared. They are evidence of wisdom accumulated through multiple existences. The pattern she identified was clear. The more intense and traumatic the previous death had been, the stronger the phobia would be in current life. And these phobias frequently came accompanied by talents or knowledge related to the original traumatic situation. Charles, for example, possessed inexplicable knowledge about alchemy and esoteric symbolism. But the third revelation, prepare your heart, because what Blavatsky discovered about how to recognize soulmates and spiritual contracts will shake the foundations of your reality. It's something so profound, so transformative, that when you know this, you'll never look at your relationships the same way again. Your life is about to be divided into before and after this ancestral revelation. The third incontestable mark of past lives are talents that emerge without logical explanation, abilities that your soul mastered throughout multiple existences and that now reappear as spiritual mastery codes engraved in your essence. Blavatsky discovered that the soul never loses truly conquered knowledge. Each skill developed with dedication and love becomes a permanent part of eternal consciousness. When we reincarnate, these mastery codes remain inactive until activated by specific triggers, a music, an instrument, a situation that awakens the soul's muscle memory. The most dramatic case documented by her involved Maria Volkonsky, a 16-year-old Russian peasant girl who had never received formal education. In 1881, upon hearing a piano for the first time, Maria approached the instrument and began playing complex Bach compositions with absolute technical perfection. Even more disturbing, she composed on the spot a sonata in Baroque style that musicologists later considered brilliant. Through her spiritual investigation techniques, Blavatsky revealed that Maria had been Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart in her previous life. The evidence wasn't just in musical talent, but in small personality details. Her obsession with sweets, her specific way of tilting her head when listening to music, and mainly, her ability to see music as colored geometric forms. Blavatsky taught that these mastery codes always return with purpose. Maria didn't recover her musical talent for personal fame, but to use music as a tool for spiritual healing in her community. Each soul returns with specific gifts related to the mission chosen for that existence. The pattern is unmistakable. The talent appears spontaneously, comes accompanied by inexplicable technical knowledge, and always awakens a sensation of coming home, as if you were finally doing what you were born to do. These are not genetic accidents or coincidences. They are tools that your soul preserved through time to fulfill its current purpose. The fourth sign revealed by Blavatsky are encounters that transcend rational explanations, human connections that awaken instant recognition, as if you had known that person since the beginning of time. During her stay in India, Blavatsky studied the Akashic records of the Ellora temples, where she discovered evidence that certain souls reincarnated repeatedly in groups, fulfilling spiritual contracts established before birth. These soul circles meet life after life, alternating roles, sometimes as family members, others as lovers, masters, enemies, or saviors. The most extraordinary case involved Eleanor Morrison, an Englishwoman who met Blavatsky in 1883. Eleanor reported that she had fallen madly in love with a stranger during a train trip, a love she described as cosmic recognition. Even more disturbing, both shared identical dreams about a life in ancient Rome where they had been tragically separated. Through her investigations, Blavatsky confirmed that Eleanor and her love had lived together in at least 7 different existences. In each life, they found each other, loved intensely, but were separated by external circumstances before completing their spiritual union. In this current life, they were finally free to fulfill the soul contract established millennia ago. Blavatsky identified 3 types of predestined encounters. First, complementary souls, people who arrive to complete undeveloped aspects of our personality. Second, testing souls, who appear to challenge us to overcome limiting patterns. Third, mission souls, spiritual companions who share elevated purposes. The clearest sign is emotional intensity disproportionate to the time of coexistence. Instant love or aversion, sensation of familiarity that goes beyond logic, or situations where you simply know things about the person without them having told you. Frequently, these encounters come accompanied by drastic changes in life direction, as if the soul were finally finding its predestined path. These cases are extraordinary, but now I'm going to tell you the greatest secret of all. Blavatsky not only discovered how to recognize soul contracts, but developed a specific method so that any person can identify signs of their own past lives through lucid dreams. What I'm going to reveal to you now can be applied in your life today, and the results can appear in 21 days. Are you prepared for this? The fifth sign are recurring dreams that possess cinematic quality and supernatural clarity, not common dreams, but soul transmissions, where you live experiences from other eras with details impossible to invent. Blavatsky developed the codified dreams method after discovering that during sleep, the conscious mind relaxes its defenses and allows past life memories to flow through what she called the astral corridor. These dreams have specific characteristics, precise historical scenarios, clothes and objects from specific eras, and mainly, you always see yourself as protagonist, never as observer. The practical technique she taught is surprisingly simple. Before sleeping, place a glass of natural water beside the bed and repeat 7 times. May my soul reveal its past through dreams. Keep a specific diary to record these dreams immediately upon waking, as they fade rapidly. Blavatsky discovered 3 patterns in past life dreams. First, they always occur in chronological sequence. You experience events in the order they happened. Second, the emotions experienced in the dream remain intense for days after waking. Third, you frequently know things in the dream that you don't know in waking life. Ancient languages, specific techniques, historical knowledge. Most important is the distinction between common dreams and ancestral dreams. Past life dreams have different texture, more vivid colors, clearer sounds, and mainly a sensation of really being there instead of just dreaming. You remember the smell of the air, the texture of clothes, the ambient temperature. To validate if it's a real memory, Blavatsky recommended researching the historical details that appear in the dream. Frequently, you'll discover that you dreamed of places, objects, or customs that really existed, but that you never studied or knew consciously. These dreams don't come to entertain, but to heal. They generally activate when you need to access ancient wisdom to resolve current challenges, or when you need to understand patterns that repeat in your life. The 2 final signs that Blavatsky considered absolute evidence of reincarnation are the most powerful. The presence of an internal mission that transcends personal logic and the recognition of specific places as spiritual home. The 6th sign is an irresistible internal calling, a deep conviction about your purpose that doesn't come from external influences, but from ancient wisdom engraved in the soul. This calling frequently contradicts family or social expectations, but resonates with a truth that you recognize as your purest essence. Blavatsky documented the case of Jonathan Hamilton, a young English lawyer who abandoned a promising career in 1885 to become a doctor for lepers in India. There was no logical explanation for this radical decision until, through regression, it was discovered that he had been an Ayurvedic healer for 3 consecutive lives. His soul carried healing codes that demanded expression, independent of current life circumstances. The 7th sign is geographical recognition, the sensation of coming home in specific locations that awaken intense emotional memories. Not common admiration for beautiful landscapes, but a familiarity that goes beyond physical senses, as if you knew that place before even seeing it. Lady Catherine Wessex experienced this when visiting Glastonbury in 1888. The moment she stepped on the Abbey ruins, she collapsed in uncontrollable crying, murmuring names and details about Celtic rituals that she shouldn't have known. Blavatsky confirmed that Catherine had been a druid priestess for multiple incarnations, always returning to the same sacred places to continue interrupted spiritual work. These 2 signs frequently work together. The mission leads you to the places where you need to fulfill it. Your soul chooses to reincarnate in times and locations that offer the best conditions to complete ancient spiritual contracts. The pattern is always the same, an inner certainty that defies rational explanations, accompanied by synchronicities that open impossible paths. When you follow this calling, doors open, right people appear, resources manifest. But there's one last revelation from Blavatsky, something she whispered only to her closest disciples before departing. A truth about your personal destiny, about why you were born exactly in this era, at this moment in history. When you know this, you'll finally understand why your soul chose to be here now, hearing these ancestral words. The deepest revelation that Blavatsky shared only in her last days was this: souls that awakened to their past lives in this specific era of history were specially chosen for a collective cosmic mission. She discovered through the Tibetan masters that our era marks the end of a great cycle of 26,000 years, what they called the cosmic year. During these transitions, ancient and experienced souls reincarnate simultaneously to help humanity evolve to a new level of consciousness. You are not here by chance. Your soul chose this moment because it possesses wisdom accumulated from multiple existences that is now necessary for collective awakening. The 7 signs you recognized are not just evidence of your past, they are activations of your present purpose. Each memory that awakens, each talent that manifests, each person you recognize, each dream you receive, are pieces of a larger puzzle. Your soul is gradually remembering who you really are, so you can fulfill the mission you chose before being born. Blavatsky taught that recognizing your past lives is just the first step. True power comes from integrating this ancient wisdom with your current consciousness. You don't need to live in the past. You need to use the past to create a higher future. If these signs resonated deeply with your soul, you are part of an ancient spiritual lineage. You are one of the awakened souls who were called to receive these teachings. It's no coincidence that you arrived here. Your soul was magnetically attracted to this truth because it was ready to remember. If this journey touched something deep in your soul, if you felt these words were destined specifically for you, then you are part of something very special. You are one of the awakened souls who were called to receive these ancestral teachings. Click subscribe and activate the bell, because I have many more sacred revelations waiting for you. Truths that I only share with those who are truly ready to remember their eternity. Now I need to know, which of these 7 signs made your heart race? Which truth awakened something within you that had been sleeping for lives? Leave a comment telling me not just what you thought, but what you felt. I personally read every word, because your awakening journey matters to me. Your story might be exactly what another ancient soul needs to hear today. And what if I told you that sharing this message could change someone's destiny? That there's a specific person in your life who needs to hear these revelations from Blavatsky today? It's no coincidence that you arrived here. You were chosen to be an instrument of ancestral awakening. Share this video now. The universe will place this message exactly in the hands of whoever most needs to awaken. Be part of this sacred mission of the Great White Brotherhood.